The rain had been pouring steadily all morning, turning the sidewalks into rivers and the streets into slippery puddle traps. Maria's umbrella had long given up the fight against the wind, flipping inside out as she struggled to maneuver her toddler's stroller through the muddy park path. Every step seemed to pull her deeper into a quagmire of wet leaves and sticky soil. Her shoes squelched with every movement, and her coat, once a crisp navy, was now streaked with mud from the inevitable splashes. Her heart pounded not just from the exertion but from anxiety. She had been nervous about this blind date for weeks, obsessively planning what she might say, what she might wear. And now, here she was, looking nothing like the polished, put-together woman she had hoped to present. Her hair stuck to her damp forehead in tangled clumps, her cheeks glowed with embarrassment, and her little boy, oblivious to social norms, had a streak of mud across his cheek from the stroller mishap. As she paused to catch her breath and wring out her dripping scarf, she glanced at the cafe across the street. Warm light spilled from its windows, a beacon of comfort and normalcy in the gray, stormy morning. She felt a pang of doubt. Maybe today was a mistake. Maybe she should turn around, apologize to her friend who had set this up, and go home. But then her son reached up and squeezed her hand, his small face full of trust and expectation. "No, Mom," he seemed to say with his tiny, determined look. "We can do this." Maria took a deep breath, adjusted the stroller, and pushed forward through the mud. Each step squelched beneath her, but with every squelch, she felt a small surge of pride. She was doing it, she was showing up. Whatever the outcome, she was taking this chance for herself, for the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this blind date could be the start of something she hadn't thought possible. By the time she reached the cafe door, her coat was nearly unrecognizable, and her hair hung in dripping strands around her face. She hesitated for a fraction of a second, bracing for judgment, before pushing the door open and stepping into warmth and light. Daniel had arrived early, as he always did, preferring to settle in before anyone else arrived. The cafe was quiet, the faint hum of conversation blending with the soft patter of rain against the windows. He adjusted his tie one last time and glanced at the door, expecting a punctual and composed woman, someone who, like him, took the time to present the best version of themselves. Then the door opened, and the vision he had anticipated evaporated instantly. A woman stumbled in, pulling a small stroller behind her, water dripping from her hair and coat, mud caked along her sleeves. Daniel's first thought, almost reflexively, was to rise and leave. It was a lot. The perfectly curated image he had imagined was gone, replaced by chaos, exhaustion, and a hint of panic in her eyes. He hesitated, torn between instinct and curiosity. His mind raced, cataloging excuses. Maybe the date could be rescheduled, perhaps this wasn't meant to happen, maybe appearances mattered more than this mess. And yet, something in her, something that went beyond the mud and wet hair, made him pause. He noticed the way she gently adjusted the blanket around her child, whispering softly despite her own apparent frustration. Her hands, though smeared with dirt, moved with care and tenderness. There was a quiet dignity in the way she carried herself, a resilience that no amount of rain could wash away. Daniel felt a flicker of respect and something he hadn't expected, intrigue. She caught his eyes, a sheepish smile on her face, and his tension softened. There was no pretense, no attempt to hide the struggle she had endured, just to be here. That vulnerability, mingled with determination, was disarming. For the first time, Daniel realized that life's perfection wasn't in appearances, it was in courage, in showing up even when circumstances made it difficult. He motioned for her to sit, offering a small, polite smile. "It's okay," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, though his heart had skipped a beat. "Looks like you've had quite a morning." Her laugh, a little breathless but genuine, broke the last of his hesitation. As she slid into the chair across from him, he found himself leaning in, already curious to hear her story. The mud and water didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the strength he could see beneath it, the spark of a woman who refused to let life's obstacles define her. As the initial awkwardness faded, Maria began to relax, her laughter cutting through the soft hum of the cafe. Daniel listened intently, surprised at how naturally her humor emerged despite the chaotic morning. She described the mishap with the stroller, exaggerating the drama just enough to make him chuckle. Her ability to find humor in what had been a stressful ordeal was captivating. It revealed a resilience he hadn't anticipated, a lightness that balanced the weight of her responsibilities. Daniel found himself sharing more than he usually would on a first date. He talked about the pressures of running a company, the loneliness that sometimes came with leadership, and the small victories he rarely celebrated. Maria didn't interrupt with pity or judgment. She responded with empathy and curiosity, asking questions that showed she genuinely cared. The conversation flowed easily, a rare mix of honesty and warmth that made him forget the pristine image he usually expected from a date. Her child, now perched safely in the stroller beside her, watched them with wide eyes, occasionally chiming in with a word or two. Maria handled each interruption with patience and gentle humor, never hiding the reality of her life. Daniel found himself admiring the effortless way she balanced attention between her son and the conversation, her eyes sparkling with both determination and affection. It was a skill he could hardly imagine mastering. At one point, a drop of rain fell from the ceiling near their table, a reminder of the storm outside, and Maria shook her head with a wry smile. "I guess we brought the weather in with us," she joked. Daniel laughed, realizing how much he enjoyed her company. For the first time, he felt like he could be himself, without the weight of appearances or expectations. By the time they stood to leave, the storm outside had eased into a light drizzle. Daniel offered his jacket, and she accepted with a grateful smile. As they walked toward the cafe's exit, he realized that what had started as a blind date, marked by mud and uncertainty, had transformed into a connection he hadn't expected but didn't want to ignore. By the time they stepped outside, the rain had mostly stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the soft light of the late afternoon. Maria adjusted the stroller, brushing off lingering drops of mud, while Daniel held his jacket out for her. She hesitated for a moment, then accepted it, her fingers brushing his in a way that made his chest tighten unexpectedly. They walked together down the wet sidewalk, the quiet rhythm of their steps matching the lingering drizzle. Daniel found himself stealing glances at her, noticing the tired determination still etched in her features, but also the small, unguarded moments of warmth, like the way she bent to adjust her son's blanket or laughed at a joke he hadn't even intended to be funny. The chaos of the morning felt distant now, replaced by a shared sense of connection, as if the storm had washed away more than just the dirt. "Thank you for not running away," Maria said softly, her voice carrying both relief and honesty. Daniel smiled, realizing that he hadn't wanted to leave, not even for a second. "I'm glad I stayed," he admitted, surprising himself with the sincerity in his own words. You handle so much, and yet," he paused, searching for the right word, "you make it look like it doesn't weigh you down." Maria's cheeks flushed, a mix of embarrassment and warmth, and she shook her head with a small, wry smile. "It does weigh me down," she admitted. "But some things, some people, make it feel lighter." Daniel's heart skipped a beat at her words, the unspoken meaning between them hanging in the air like the faint scent of rain. As they reached the corner where they would part ways, neither moved immediately. The stroller was packed and ready, the quiet hum of life continuing around them, but the moment felt suspended, delicate and promising. Daniel found himself wanting to linger, to know more, to see the world through her eyes. Maria looked up at him, her expression a mixture of fatigue and hope, and he realized that this wasn't just a fleeting encounter, it was the start of something real. "Same time next week?" he asked, a hint of nervous optimism in his voice. Maria's smile widened, genuine and bright, and she nodded. "I'd like that." They said their goodbyes with a lingering handshake that turned into a gentle touch, the kind that speaks louder than words. Daniel watched her walk away, mud-streaked coat and all, and for the first time in years, he felt a thrill not tied to success or achievement, but to the unexpected possibility of love, resilience, and a life shared with someone brave enough to show her true self. And Maria, glancing back once, felt a spark of hope she hadn't dared to feel in a long time. Today had been messy, exhausting, and imperfect, but it had also been extraordinary.